I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting for the commissioners have called. If we could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'll turn it over to President of Commissioners Dale Strong for some opening remarks.
Thank you, council members and everyone else for being here. The commissioners have requested this joint session to discuss one item and one item only, that being the ongoing project that we've been working on concerning the Women's Work Release Center at the Old Dollar General Store. And to let everyone know, everyone here as well as our listening audience, know why we're here and what we're going to do this evening is in 2018, when we began in earnest on this project to use the Dollar General store as a women's work release center. We did the usual feasibility studies and various other things that we had to do, and we finally came to the conclusion after much research that was going to be the most feasible way to reduce, not only reduce overpopulation in the county jail, but to provide a work release program for female offenders. When we finally did get down to, we were approaching the time when we really needed to start getting serious about funding this project. Funding was the main item on everyone's mind at the time. And just in time, Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act, and we started receiving ARPA funds, and in total, Fayette County was allotted $4,487,293 in ARPA funds, which at that time we said, okay, we're going to develop a plan for spending these funds, and the commissioners adopted a plan to fund the remodeling and construction of this work release center for women, as well as replacing air handlers at the jail, and with enough money left over for a small water project in the county. Now the original cost estimate for the work release project was $3.1 million. When we finally did get a bid on the project out of a field of 5 or 6 possible contractors to bid on it, the bid came in 54% above the estimate at $4,750,000 was the base bid, with another $674,000 in alternative bids. So that would use up our entire allotment of ARPA funds plus more. So that brings the commissioners before the council to explain all this and try and decide a way forward if we can. If the situation stays the way it is now, commissioners cannot move forward on this project without borrowing money, and that's the council's responsibility. It's basically the long and the short of it. So the options, and these may not be all the options, but the options that certainly should be at the forefront in this discussion would be either we could borrow money and proceed with the project. We could scale down the project and make it more affordable. We could delay and rebid the project. Or we could just cancel and abandon the project. But all those options have consequences. Consequences that some may be predictable, but most probably not. So to help us understand the how and the why, where we got to where we are today, I'm going to call Mr. Scott Carnegie from DLZ, who has been handling this situation for us, and let him bring further insight to where we are exactly, how we got here, and what possible options there are. Mr. Carnegie, I'm going to turn this session over to you.
Thank you, Deb. Do all the council
Could you bring your
members,
microphone closer, please?
is that better?
Little.
I'm not sure if it's on.
It's not on.
I'll have to turn it on.
I don't know that it's not for me, but I don't think that system works anymore.
I'll try to talk louder, is that okay?
Thank you.
All right. If I talk louder, please don't feel like I'm yelling at you, I'm just trying to talk loud. Do all the council members have a copy of the bid tab? There's some extra copies here, if anybody would like a copy, it's a copy of what's up there. All right, so the paper I just handed out is the same thing that's projected up there. I realize that that is small up there on the screen. On Tuesday, July the 19th, we received bids for the Fayette County Women's Work Release and Detention Center project. In total, we received one bid from Thor Construction. We have representatives here from Thor Construction this evening. Also, Eric Ratz, Principal Architect with DLZ, who's also been involved in this project. The bid that we did receive from Thor Construction, it appeared to be in conformance with the construction documents, subject to review and approval by the county attorney, of course. But if I could, I'm going to just kind of zoom in real quick and try to make this a little larger so people can see. So the base bid figure that you see there in the first column, that's $4,750,000. Then the very next column over, we required the general contractors that bid on the project to include a $40,000 contingency allowance. That contingency allowance was to be used for roof repairs. And of course, any unused contingency allowance would be turned back over to the owner at the end of the project via a deduct change order. Then we also took several alternate bids. Alternate bids, on the bid form, a contractor was required to submit a separate price for specific items, and I'll review those with you here now. So the first item we had was alternate number 1. That was for a complete roof replacement of the project, or for the building. And you can see that was $110,400. Alternate number 2.
These are all in addition to the base bid.
Correct. Alternate number 2 was to replace all of the concrete slab within the building, because we had to, as you might imagine, a jail, there's a lot of sanitary, a lot of sinks, a lot of plumbing, a lot of showers. So we have to saw cut the floor at several locations. This was an alternate to completely replace the entire slab. And that was an add of $68,000. Alternate number 3 was there's a program space within the building for programming classroom type space. And it was a good suggestion, I think, by the Sheriff's Office to go ahead and outfit that with a toilet combi unit and a shower in the event that they wanted to use that for overflow capacity. So that was alternate number 3, and that was an add of $63,000. Then we had alternate number 4, which was adding an aluminum canopy at the very back door. And again, just to protect you from rain, that kind of thing, as you're transporting inmates from this jail over from the Old Dollar Store over to the main jail. So that was an aluminum canopy for that. That was an add of $17,000. Alternate number 5 was fencing at the back alley, and that's a fence around the ramp with a gate down at the end. That was an add of $12,100. And then we took an alternate number 6 in the event that alternate number 2 for the complete concrete slab replacement was not selected. We had the opportunity to come in and stain the existing floor so that any patchwork in the existing slab that remained looked more uniform. So we didn't have the existing concrete versus new replaced concrete. And that was an add of $50,300. Then we took alternate number 7, which at the padded holding, it was a cost to add the padding on the walls and the doors for padded holding. As part of the base bid, we actually put a bunk in there so we gained 2 beds from that as part of the base bid. That was an add of $50,000. And then we took alternate number 8, which was to finish out the dorm at the southeast pod. So it's the same recreation area where we included the toilet and the shower, for possible overcrowding. And we outfitted that with additional bunks to house inmates as well. And that was an add of $125,000. Then we have alternate number 9, which it sells at the northeast pod. So in the base bid, that area was a dormitory style where inmates get the room in a day room area. And alternate number 9 actually incorporated cells, as you might imagine what that would be like, for $179,000. That was an add. And then you can see on the bid form, we passed out, total completion in calendar days was 365 days. I would say that with the base bid, the work release will yield 20 beds. The base bid jail component will yield 36 beds for a total of 56. That's work release and jail. And then if you take alternate number 8, which is to finish out the open dormitory with bunks, that will yield you an additional 8 beds for a total of 64. And that's the maximum bed count with base bid plus that alternate. If you elected alternate number 9, it actually reduces the bed count by 2. If we accepted the alternate for the padded holding, we'd actually reduce the bed count by 2. So the maximum number is 64 with alternate number 8. Any questions regarding the bid results and the base bid scope and the alternates?
Numbers 2 and number 7 comparison.
Sorry, 2 and what?
2 and 7. You say those are the 2 just different styles?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Alternate number 2 versus alternate number 7. Those are 2 different styles, but it's the same thing.
2 and 6.
2 and 7. Or 6, sorry.
Yeah, 6. So alternate number 2 was to completely replace the concrete slab. Because when we go in there and put in all the underground sanitary for all the toilets, the sinks, the showers, there's a lot of trenching that has to go on, so we have to saw cut the existing slab quite a bit. So when we come back and we patch that, that would be alternate number 6, where we would come back in and add a stain to make it more uniform. Alternate number 2 was to completely replace the slab.
Can I ask you a quick question? It was brought up, but we're in the middle of budget hearings right now.
Yeah.
And it was brought up in our budget meetings. So currently we have access to our plumbing from the basement. Obviously this is a slab on grade. You don't have access to the plumbing, and the inmates tend to play games with plugging up the toilets and stuff like that. So how is that going to work? Is there what do you do to prevent it? Because obviously you can't access it if it's a slab on grade anymore.
Yeah, so excellent question, and we get asked that very frequently. So at the back, and we call them combi units. So it's a stainless steel, it's correctional grade, it's a toilet and a sink, behind. But there's a chase, a mechanical chase right behind that that's accessible. And where the sanitary clean out is, right behind that, there's a clean out pin. So it's a stainless steel pin that's adjustable, that you can adjust the height of it within the pipe. So when inmates try to flush, and you're exactly right, they have a lot of time on their hands, they try to flood their cells, the pin would catch it there.
Good.
And that's, you'd go in there and unscrew the cap and extract whatever they tried to flush and plug the sanitary line. Any other questions?
Alternate number 5, what type of fencing is that?
I'm sorry? What kind of fencing?
What type of fencing?
It's a chain link fence, 8 feet tall, with a gate at the end of the ramp. The concept behind that was, as correctional officers are transporting inmates over to the main jail, because they're still going to be booked over there, it's my understanding, then transported over, or if they need to go back over to the main jail for any other reason. The fence was there just as another layer of precaution, in case you had a runner, or if somebody was waiting for somebody to be transported. You had that fence there as a barrier.
Is there anything at the top of the fence?
It's open unless you accept the other alternate number 4, which is the aluminum canopy over it.
Okay. I was getting at if there was any wire, like coiled wire at the top of the fence.
No, there is no razor wire or ribbon wire. It's just literally a chain link fence, 8 feet tall. Now, the other thing, and I don't know if you're privy to this, but the alley between the existing male dormitory or the male work release and the female, we do have permission to vacate that alley. So that's why we have bollards over on the left-hand side so vehicles can't drive through there anymore. We did get permission to do that.
Is there any, one thing I've always wondered about them working over there with the existing structure there was the drain pipes, water pipes and everything in the concrete, and even pouring a slab in there and pouring concrete without access other than the human doors, for lack of another term. Is there any advantage to the contractor that if you did 1 and 2, it would reduce costs of redoing that floor and putting these? I mean, the roof off, it looks like it'd be a lot easier job to take out concrete and pour new concrete with those 2 in place.
You guys understand that question?
I didn't hear it. Oh.
I believe, if I'm understanding correctly, the question was asked if it makes sense to remove the roof structure. Is that correct?
Yeah, Danny, if you end up replacing the floor, or even putting a slab, pour a leveling, say, layer over the top of it, to me, labor-wise, it makes sense. If the roof was off, it did need to be removed, that would be an opportune time to work on the slab, replace it if needed, or because you'd have access to pouring in excavators over the top of the walls, more or less, rather than.
Well, I mean, if the roof was successful, you maybe gain some there, John. I personally talked with Jeff Schammel about that roof, and he thought that the allowance was sufficient to keep that roof like it is, and that's been whatever alternate it was to replace it. Yeah.
$110,400. Now, the one thing that I will also make you aware, as part of the Department of Corrections standards for jail construction, you have to provide a certain amount of natural light to inmates. So there are several skylights that are going into that existing roof, so there will be some openings and some opportunities to those skylights. Yes?
On order number 1, complete roof removal and replacement. That roof that's on there now, if we leave it, how long will it be before we need a new one?
Well, we included, if you get up on that roof, you'll see where the membrane, it's a single ply EPDM membrane. It has some life expectancy left, but there are some needs, particularly in the seams, that need to be addressed. If I was to guess, I would say within 5 to 10 years, you're going to be replacing the roof.
What would that cost at today's standards? We don't know what happened.
Well, in
right?
today's standards, that's what that cost is for
That's what
alternate number one.
Okay.
$110,400 to completely replace it.
On alternate number 4, on aluminum canopy,
Yes.
is there any other options of canopies besides aluminum?
We could, yeah, absolutely. There is, on the front of the building, there's a canopy that's a fabric canopy. I don't know if that would be more cost effective. That's something that we could certainly look at. If I could, throughout the design process, and I think the commissioners would attest to this, I think there were questions throughout the design, why are you including so many alternates? The reason that we included a total of 9 alternates was to try and get the base bid scope of work down to what we would consider to be bare bones minimum. And the alternates are little enhancements that you can award if you so choose. But that's why we had so many alternates. We feel like the base bid is basic. It's to meet DOC standards and to meet applicable codes.
This base bid, how long is it good for?
60 days from July 19th, so it expires on September the 17th.
What was the first estimate on this job?
3.1 million.
What happened?
So when we put this bid together, the estimate together, we looked at projects that we had recently bid. And the most recent, somewhat comparable, and I'll explain that in a moment, was the Sullivan County Jail. We bid that project 2 to 3 months prior to this one. Now, it was a brand new jail, a lot of site development work, and that came in just under $500 a square foot. And with this one at 3.1 million, which was our initial estimate, it was $413 a square foot. So knowing that there was very limited amount of site development work, that's how we arrived at the 3.1 million at $413 a square foot. If you awarded just the base bid with the $40,000 allowance, that's $638 a square foot. Now, and Thor may want to chime in here, but what's happened in the market over the last couple of months has been unreal. It's not just this project, believe me. There's projects all throughout the country that are struggling with the same issues as far as price escalation. We're dealing with projects right now, and I just got a letter today with a contractor on a new jail in Jefferson County where they're asking for additional monies for price escalation, which we're not going to do, but there's contractors all over the country that are dealing with price escalations. You know, from bid day, when they bid the project, and now when they actually order material, because they won't lock in prices until you actually order. So the number that the contractors receive on bid day, it's kind of...
It's a gamble anymore for the contractors. You hold that 60 days, of which we're held to, and I can tell you in just this past year, I've seen just in one item jump $70,000, which we had eaten. So I've never seen it like this. I've been doing this now for 47 years, and never in my life have I seen it like it's been in the last 2 years. And it's not going to recede or stop for the foreseeable future.
Sir, real quick,
Yeah.
you said $413 a square foot
At 3.1 million.
at 3.1, and this one you said is
638.
638. And when was? Can you give me the time frame when that 3.1 quote came in? I know it's been a while.
Most recently, that would have been presented back in June.
June of this year.
Yes. And that was the budget number that we had been trying to hold, I
Right.
think, since a long time.
Yeah.
Now, I did reach out to, there were two other general contractors that I expected a bid from on bid day. One being Weisenhunt Construction, another one Cornica Coasting. And they were all pretty much saying the same thing, and that is they couldn't even get numbers for a complete bid because contractors were too busy. There's labor shortages, so they just opted to not even provide a number because they can't staff it. And I think you had indicated the same thing, that you were running into some of that
Yeah.
together your bid.
Yeah, we're all running into. On this project, I will say, all but two categories, I think, we did have 2 or more bidders. But that's pretty much our own pre-approved list that we throw out there. So they're more apt to give us a bid rather than not, because we use them continuously, they're pre-approved. So we had that problem, but we were able to get numbers for every category.
The supply, I understand the supply issues are not just material, it's labor, and then you've got increased interest cost of your own,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
We are truly in the bidding environment for construction, we are truly in unprecedented times. We've never seen something like this before.
Now, you're saying it'd be approximately 60 beds, correct?
64 is the maximum if you accept alternate number 8.
How's that divided between work release and incarceration?
So there would be 20 beds for the work release, and then the remainder would be for the jail. That's if you accept alternate number 8, which will yield you an additional 8 beds to get you to 64. Yes, so very good comment there. And as the commissioners know, we intentionally designed the work release to DOC standards. In other words, to jail standards. So if the need ever arose, the work release would be outfitted and designed where you could immediately move inmates in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, suppose you had 30 work release, you could convert 10 cells over, or just keep them open, I guess.
That would be an operational decision. I'm looking back here. Yes.
Scott, I have a question for you and for Thor. If you had a blank canvas, meaning no building there, it was just flat land, what does that do to any of your costs? Because I know you're trying, like as John said, trying to saw cut the concrete slab from, that's a lot of work. And then trying to match it, like you said, staining it. If you just had a blank canvas, does that do anything as far as reducing costs?
If
I'm not
you-
talking about, ignore the fact that there's a building there, because it's an empty field.
A new building
Yeah,
type scenario.
yeah.
I'll give my opinion, then I'll look back here at Thor. My personal opinion is the cost would be more than what you currently have. Now, part of the reason and the rationale why we came up with the 3.1 million back when we did was the fact we said, okay, well, there's minimal site development. We already have 4 walls. We already have a roof. We have a slab. Now, we knew the slab was going to get, cut up quite a bit like Swiss cheese. But we felt like that was some cost savings, the fact that we already had the 4 walls and the roof. And the utilities are essentially there, and there's minimal site development.
I would say if you got a structure, don't tear it down if you keep from it. It's value. I mean, when it's there and halfway decent, there's value already there. If we tore it down, we'd have demolition costs, and then we'd go
Well,
back
that's why I
to
said ignore that part, because I wanted you just a blank canvas, nothing.
Oh, okay. Well, you
The
got a
only
steel
reason I asked
structure.
that, the only reason I asked that question is sometimes it doesn't make sense to keep sticking money into something that, you throw
Absolutely.
good after bad. That was the premise of my question. Not that we're getting into demo, because I know I agree with you, you're talking
Right.
about demo costs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll add is you may do it a little bit differently, but there's a lot of the same things that you're already buying in this renovation project that you would have in a new project. So, when it comes to all the detention items, when it comes to HVAC, the electrical, the plumbing, yes, you wouldn't be doing some demo costs, cutting the slabs, but you would be doing all of it new in a different way. So I agree with Scott that if you had a blank site, you're definitely going to have some site costs that go into it that you don't currently have. You would have the building envelope that you would have to build, plus all the things that you're already spending money on. You would be spending similar amounts in that new building with what you're already spending. So I don't see the cost going down.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Let's pretend hypothetically, we take this bid, you get the job, and you can't find the workforce to do it. What would happen then?
Did you hear the question?
No, say again.
Hypothetically speaking, let's say that the project was awarded, and for whatever reason, you couldn't find available labor.
We're okay with the labor and the people that bid to us. I mean, we went over that with them even since here, you know, preparing for this. So we're okay with that. But that's also why we put that many days in there, okay?
So during the pre-bid meeting, I don't know, there was 5 or 6 contractors or, subcontractors that showed up for the pre-bid meeting. I think that was probably the #1 question that got asked because there was some concern regarding material and labor shortages and wanting to know if there was going to be if there were any liquidated damages on the project. What that means is there a penalty? If a contractor writes down 260 days, do they start owing or having to pay the county on day 261? And commissioners, I think all 3 of you were there at the pre-bid meeting, and I think I said something to the effect, there are no liquidated damages, and certainly getting the project done in a reasonable amount of time is important, but for budget purposes, we didn't want that necessarily to inflate the cost. Does that make sense? We didn't want the contractor to say, oh, well, if there's liquidated damages and I'm, possibly going to have some exposure, that they want that they inflate their bid $50,000, for example. The other thing I wanted to say is, we've presented the costs on bid day. There are some additional costs that I want you to be aware of, and the commissioners, I believe, are aware of this as well. The existing security electronic system at the jail, at the existing jail, needs to be upgraded so that the 2 buildings essentially operate as one. They can be controlled and monitored from master control over at the existing jail. So what we have told the commissioners is they would be better off to contract directly with Stanley Convergent Security Solutions. They're the security system integrator over at the existing jail, and they're the security system integrator for this project. So it's all one complete system. But that was an additional approximate $200,000 to upgrade the security electronics over at the existing jail. So I just want to make you aware that
That's on top of this.
on top of that. The other thing I wanted to make you aware of is there is some environmental issue at the Dollar General store. We know that there's some very limited asbestos, what's readily visible to us when we tour the space. And we know that there is some mold remediation that needs to occur. So that would be the responsibility of the county to remediate those items. Now, we did issue as part of the addenda and in the bidding phase, where the contractor is responsible for having environmental tests performed. And if the mold, for example, does indeed show to be the hazardous kind, that they would hire a company to do the report, turn it over to the commissioners with a recommendation of how to remediate it. But that would be an additional cost.
Can you give an estimate of that?
On my spreadsheet right here, I just wrote down $50,000. I really have no idea. But I just wrote down $50,000 of budget number.
And the likelihood of the mold is because the building has been sitting there, it's unconditioned. That's what happens.
Then lastly, for every project, we would recommend what we refer to as a construction contingency. And a construction contingency is for unforeseen conditions. For example, we could be saw cutting a slab to put in the underground sanitary. There could be a conduit with some feeders that accidentally get cut because we couldn't see it. We didn't know it was there. Contractor couldn't see it. So we would recommend a contingency allowance certain dollar amount be set aside for those types of unforeseen conditions.
What percentage is that?
I would recommend 5%, and we should not exceed 5%. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward project.
That happens whether it's a new building or an existing
It does.
building, every project has one.
Could we run an X-ray machine over it?
That's what I was
I'm sorry?
thinking.
X-ray machine?
You can,
We've got one.
We got one.
yeah.
Dale,
It,
use your X-ray machine.
yeah. And we've done that on other projects before. Howard County Jail, we did that. We went in and we x-rayed the floor. Because we were doing their intake booking area, so there's a lot of conduit, a lot of cables, so it's pretty important. The issue we ran into is the steel reinforcing in the slab. Kind of gave us some false readings, so we had to be very careful about how we interpreted that. So, yes, that could certainly be done.
Ours is radar, not X-ray. Ours is radar.
Radar.
Yeah, it's radar. A little bit different.
I would like to hear from Michelle and Zach on what bed count you believe we need.
I'm good on the work release for the 20 beds.
What was the question? Sorry.
What do we think that our bed count should be? What are we going to be good with?
I think we're good with, if we could get upwards of 35 or 40, and I think that's what they're saying. But the problem is, some of it, because of finances, I guess, we need sales, and I don't think sales are in this bid, correct?
That would be alternate number 9.
9.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we need.
You
is
have to have
the ability to separate people is pretty important, and that's not in the base bid, and also the padded cell is something that we really need, and that's not in the base bid as well.
That's pretty much it.
So that's taking 4 bids away.
Yeah. We were pretty happy with the first go around, the 3.1 million. We had a couple things that we wanted to add. There was a one cell block of 8 or 12, is that what it was?
Yeah.
And that got taken out. To me, you have to have the 8 cells. I mean, the ability to separate inmates is pretty important. Day rooms work, but they don't always work. So I think that's something we have to have.
So you're saying, Zach, these options, and Michelle, that you guys actually need are not on this sheet?
No, they're on
They're on the
They're on
sheet,
the
yeah.
sheet.
They're
Number
alternates.
9
Number 9.
is the sales.
And what is the total there on the number 9?
Alternate number 9 was an add of $179,000.
I understand that, but the bed count, I mean, work release is 20 and
It actually, if you
Add
accept the
2.
alternate number 9, it actually reduced your base bed count by 2.
And he
And
wants
then if you,
7. He said he wanted 9 and 7.
and then alternate number 7 would reduce it by 2 as well.
So that's coming on the jail side?
Yes.
but that's a total beds from the 60. The base bid just has one room that's sort of open, correct? That has nothing in it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the work release would still yield you 20 beds. That would not be changed by any alternates.
Okay.
If you accepted alternate number 9 and alternate number 7, that would put your, it would take it from a total of jail beds from 36 to 32.
So I think one other thing, just as a comparison, just as you're putting out some different things, is what happens if you don't do it? And you have 40 females that you need to send to another county for another hold.
$45 a day? 37.
You can get 37?
Keep it.
We'll say it's
That's
$40.
what we're hoping.
Okay, you have 40 beds times 40 times 365. That's $584,000. If you didn't have the beds for them, you had to send them to another county, which many counties in Indiana do. It's $584,000 per year.
Well, in no way am I talking about not doing this. My thing
I
is, I want to
understand.
make sure that Michelle and Zach are getting what they need. So I wanted to know which plan Michelle and Zach need.
What I will say is, in all sincerity, you need to do more than just the base bid to get really what they need. And I think that that's what that's been said. It's not every one of them, but I think you do need to do some of the alternates to get really everything that they need.
How many women do we have in jail now, Michelle? You know?
Zach would have that.
We have, when I left earlier, I think we had 33 females,
33 females.
which is sort of low for us. Normally we have 40-some.
I was gonna say, your average is pushing 40 usually.
If you had female work release, could any of those be on work release?
More than likely, yes.
A lot of those would get resolved with work
They would plead out for work release.
What is the base capacity right now? Just base bid, what was it?
Base bid with no alternates, 36 for jail, 20 for work release.
So 56 total is the base bid right now.
Correct.
Zach, of this 40 odd, how many would be eligible for release, or maybe Michelle answer that?
That'd probably be up to the judge.
Yeah, it's up to
It's
the
the
prosecutor and the judge.
prosecutor.
I would say probably 30%.
30%,
Right,
okay.
yes.
I don't think we'd have a problem. I think we'd get 20 people in 20 females in work release, and they
I
come
thought you'd
from
get
that.
more, that's what
Yeah.
surprised me.
I mean,
They
I
planned
think,
for 20.
I think we wouldn't have any problem keeping that pretty full.
How many men do we have now, Michelle?
We're running around 30.
Mhm.
Our count is down right now because I've had to file a lot of motions to terminate. I probably filed more so far this year than I filed in the last 5 years total. But I had to get them out of there.
And that would send it back to jail, is that what you're saying?
But that's what it's done, and I think I'm up to, sorry, Zach, 23 since January. And one spurt, I hit him with 15 in a week. But it was for their own safety. They were using bug spray, inhaling.
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah. And we had to call the unit over several times, and one of them thought he could fly, and it was their own safety. They had to have motions to terminate. Since then, I haven't really had many problems, but January, we loaded you up.
Which gets into the mental health issue, doesn't it? Some of them.
No, it's addictions. But if we put those 23 back in, I'd be full, which is where I'd like to be, because the empty beds over there are the most expensive beds.
And the judge would have the ability to, females in drug court, because you have a lot of
Yes.
drug court, he'd be able to put those in the work release, part of the building also. So it'd be a benefit for him.
Scott, you guesstimated about 50,000 for the mold, but you also mentioned asbestos. Was that 50, did that include asbestos, or was that
The amount of asbestos that's visually evident when
Yeah.
you walk in, it's isolated to you walk in, the
Yeah.
corner right there to the right.
I understand, you only know what you know.
It's a small little closet area, so that's really pretty minimal.
Okay,
Floor tile.
Yeah, it's some floor tile,
okay,
final asbestos tile.
okay. So that 50 guesstimate would include that?
Yes,
Okay.
Scott, it's about the size of this podium.
it is.
Okay.
It's very small.
Well, where there's smoke, there may be fire, right? So you gotta,
I don't know if it's asbestos tile or not. No one's tested it.
yeah.
That's usually the sign.
I've worked with asbestos for 10 years, look at me.
Dale, Commissioners, how much money are you looking at to borrow?
Well, I didn't come in here with a specific number. But
Didn't we allow 3.1 for ARPA?
well, our original plan, John, was to spend $3.1 million of ARPA funds
on this project. And then another $430,000 replacing the air handlers at the current jail, which is a must project.
It's a must project, yes.
That has to be done.
You get your water project.
And plus, the water project out at St. Jude Village. Now, at this point, I think we can safely assume the water project at St. Jude concerning ARPA funds is off the table. But we still don't have enough ARPA funds to cover not even the base bid on this project,
Right.
but you throw in the air handlers at the jail, there's another $430,000. So it just take a couple of minutes to add all this up. But it's roughly $2 million we're looking at additional funding to get these two projects done. And
How much did you say the air handlers were?
around $430,000.
Michelle, do you have funds that you can help with?
Yes.
How much is that?
I did a little calculating today and to see where I was gonna stand by the end of the year. I would safely say that I could put up like 500,000. And of course, we've already put the 110 up for the building.
Yes, by the way, don't forget that. Michelle's funds bought that building to begin with in 2018.
Your alternate one, what's your cost for repairing the roof as it sits right now?
We have a $40,000 contingency, and that's what that,
That's right, you did, yeah.
and that's why you see that.
So if you say in 5 to 10 years, are you more, for 5 or 10, because if you're repairing it now, I mean, might be the time to do it.
For $70,000 more, you can have a new roof.
Right, and plus the material cost will be more, I guarantee by 5 years.
I would agree. There are some alternates on here that would be easy to do later, if you so choose. For example, alternate number 4, the aluminum canopy at the ramp. You could add that later. Your outside the secure perimeter would have no real impact on the operations. Fencing at the back alley, which is at the ramp, same thing, it could be added later. Alternate number 6, if you chose to not accept alternate number 2, which was the concrete slab removal, where you wanted to come back in and stain and seal the floor later, you could do that if you wanted to later. The safety padding, and I know you heard from the sheriff's office, they feel like they need that now, but that could be done later. But if you're thinking about alternate number 3, that's the toilet and shower program area. That would really need to be done now.
Cut on the floor.
Yeah, cutting the floor and just the disruption to the operations of the jail. Alternate number 8, which is the dorm at the southeast pod. You could do that later. I mean, it's a matter of bringing in the bunks, but at the same time, I think they need the beds, is what you're hearing. Then alternate number 9, which is the cells at the northeast pod, which you heard from the sheriff's office saying that they feel pretty strongly that's needed. That would really need to be done now.
Are there any, I mean, this is a project that's gonna be ongoing for a few months. Is there any other grants out there that we've been working with that you know of?
So that's what the commissioners have, the grant that Dale's got over there. Is that what you want to see?
Yeah, is there anything else? I mean, we got these funds here. I didn't know if there's anything else available.
Well, it's kind of up to us. We want to have to
I
Lisa.
have a question for whoever wants to speak for construction. Does Thor, do you actually do any of this work, or do you just subcontract everything out?
Now, we do a fair portion with our own people. But you also have a combination there that Thor Construction Company and Carroll Electric are both owned by me. We did your electrical here. We've done, Thor and Carroll both have done a lot of work around the Connersville area. Yeah, we do some of it for their own people. What we actually do, we will price it in-house, carpentry work, doors, hardware, things like that. We also take bids. We typically have at least 3 bidders in every category that are pre-approved to bid to us, so we don't have to worry about it, you know. So at times, our competition or our subcontractors are probably maybe a little cheaper than we are with our own people. We go with the low number. So that's kind of the way we work. But a big portion of this is electrical. Carroll Electric, we've been around since 1969. Thor Construction since '87. Of course, we worked with these fellows on several projects. Most recently, Wake County Jail renovation. So, yeah, we do some work with our own.
Okay, I was wondering really how much of this work is really outside your control? Or would you say basically maybe half of it's outside your?
Subcontracted out? Be more than that. More percentage than that, yeah.
More than 50%?
Yeah. I mean, like I say, we bid the work, we bid the individual parts, but we also take bids on it. We hope that we're there with the right number to do it ourselves, but, we have to go with the low number. That's what we've done.
So you collected bids from subcontractors in the process of putting together your overall bid?
Yeah.
Okay.
In most categories, we had at least 2 bidders. I think there was the concrete and site work. We only had 1 each, but we felt good with those numbers. We put our own numbers in-house to those 2 areas, and I felt they were okay.
Well, you understand what it's like to only receive 1 bid on a project.
I tell you, we've had that happen more than you would think. Centerville Elementary School, their maintenance facility there. We were the only bidder on that. Once again, everything's over budget, but they appropriated and we're doing that job. So we found that quite often here, not just recently, but over the last year. And we don't see it letting up for a couple of years anyway. Steel, we bid a project with steel building. They don't guarantee their price till they get the purchase order, and then we'll tell you what the new price is. Things like that. It's just something I've never seen before, and it's really hard to be a contractor nowadays. Come out ahead.
And you understand our dilemma.
Absolutely, I do. The other thing is that, at least for me, I do a lot of development work where me and some partners own things. I was commenting on a job we're doing in Richmond there with Earl College that we've been working on for 3 years. Well, 3 years ago, those numbers were $1.7 million something. Now they're 2.2. And I hate that because, as an investor, that's coming out of my pocket. The only thing that's helping us get by is the interest rates are to a point, and if they go up any higher, I don't know if that's going to work, but it's kind of keeping us where we can do a project and afford somebody to afford this amount per square foot, So we're facing it too. I hate it, but I'm having to deal with it myself as a developer.
Well, I guess we both understand each other's positions.
Sure.
It's easy for us to question whether or not we're getting the best bid we can when we only have 1 bidder.
Right.
But there again, if we chose to delay for 12 to 24 months, there's no guarantee that will work to your advantage either.
No. These interest rates are clicking up, and they're going to go up again. So that's something you have to watch very closely. If it clicks up very much more, I'm gonna have to hold on developments. Simple as that.
I got a question on
Sure. Go ahead.
alternate number 8. If you do 8, which in my opinion, I think Zach's 2 needs to be done, does that eliminate 3? Because if it's going,
No, good question. Those are 2 separate alternates, so if you did alternate number 8, you would need to accept alternate number 3, because that's what gets you the toilet and showers. And the reason that we broke those out separate is to give you the flexibility of only doing alternate number 3, which is having the toilet and showers, and still being able to add the bunks in the future if you so choose, or that space could serve as overflow.
Or if you do alternate number 9, those have toilets inside the cells, so do you have to add alternate 3?
No.
Would we want to do 8 and 9, or is there kind of trying to keep up with that one?
I thought we discussed that we didn't need the program space. We need the bed space, because I'm gonna be doing the programming even in the jail side, and those girls will be in their own cell block that are gonna get intensive jail treatment. And then my work release girls, their classes will be coming over to my building, and my class are in that. So we didn't need that, we need the beds.
So which alternate number are you saying you need, Michelle?
I
8
I
and
think
3.
you need 8 and 9, you need the most beds that
And
you can
3.
get. Right, and you have to have
Or
3
3.
then. But you agree?
Agreed.
8,
9, and
plus
3?
2.
I'm sorry?
8, 9, and 3?
Yes.
Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
If you do 8, you have to do 3.
And
Yeah.
I agree
Nine's
with what
included,
he
so
said, like
that
on the
is-
canopy, and I made, X's through them on the chain link fence and the canopy. That's low dollars compared to the rest of them, but we don't need that right now.
No, we don't.
I think we had a question from the audience. Did you want to ask something, Linda?
My question was that if this is a public project, why do the bids not come into the council and the council open them and make that decision? Is that not how it works?
No.
No.
Commissioners sign all contracts and instigate them. Only thing we have to do is approve the funding once the contract is going with it.
Okay, so the bids would have come into the commission?
Yeah.
And there was only one bid?
Yes.
And is Thor considered a general contractor?
They're a good contractor, I know from Richmond. They're good.
And we've worked
I'm not
with,
saying they are there.
yeah, and we've worked with Thor in the past. We're currently finishing up some project at the Wayne County Jail with Thor Construction as well. So, I mean, we're very familiar with Thor Construction. Yeah.
And
We
Dan and I-
replaced your floor in your Spartan boat. We even did that. When they tore the floor out, concrete, pea gravel, put drainage under there and all. That was a trick, but we've done a lot of work down here for the school system, tennis courts. So for long times.
It just bothers me that there's only one bid.
Bothers us too, but
Yeah.
it's the day.
And make people pay us.
I've known Danny since '88, my previous life.
Don't test me here.
You had mentioned about talking with Coach saying they didn't have 2 bids and they were running over us already or something.
Scott, that 5% contingency was based on the base, right?
The awarded amount.
Oh, the awarded
Yeah.
amount total.
It's recommended
Okay.
that whatever dollar amount you
Okay.
award, basement and alternates, roughly 5%.
And as you know, if you don't spend it,
Right, I understand.
But we still have to prepare for it.
But you
right?
need to have your, a savings account.
That's right.
in case.
So we have 4 sections for it.
Yeah. So this is the floor plan, and I wish I knew this was a laser before. Previously, I was up there with a coat hanger. But anyway, the work release is essentially this pinkish area right here. The administration area for work release is right here. This is your main front door right here. And then this right here, this is master control. This is just a corridor that gets you from the lobby area to the secure perimeter. That right there is an interview room, padded holding, and then with an associated padded holding toilet shower, which is the way we typically design padded holdings. And then there's essentially, think of it as 4 different quadrants for the jail. So there's 1 up here, this is 2, and these are open dormitory style, and they're literally mirror imaged. If I drew a line right through there, I could mirror image and they would match.
So think of an open dormitory as like a room like this, that you put bunk beds in. There's no cells. It's the perimeter of the room is secure, but inside, it's like holding for
With very little privacy.
that's right. It's
It,
typically what you'll see in a workplace.
yeah, it's the most cost-effective way to get beds, is an open dormitory style concept. Now, the alternate number 8 and alternate number 9 that we've been contemplating, alternate number 8 is this area right here that's kind of reddish. So this is base bid, where we're just showing it's an open room for program. And you heard Michelle a moment ago, saying doesn't really need program space. I'll show you the alternate layout for that. Then this is the northeast quadrant. So that area right there is alternate number 9, where we would take that open dormitory and we would actually incorporate cells. So I'm going to advance the slide here. So that right there is alternate number 3 that needs to be done in conjunction with alternate number 8. And that's where we add the toilet and the shower. And again, that was kind of a bare bones minimum to where you could come in and add bunks later, or you could use it as you see here as overflow. And it'd still have the toilet and shower accommodations. That's the padded holding, where we would add the pad to that area to the left. This is alternate number 8. That's the dorms in the southeast pod. And you can see the toilet and the showers are still there because that's part of alternate number 3. But we would be adding the bunks and the tables as another open dormitory to gain us a total of 8 additional beds above the base bid number. This is alternate number 9, and again, that's the northeast pod, where we converted essentially from an open dormitory concept to cells. And that's the classification, separation that the sheriff's office was talking about.
And should these cells contain how many people? 4?
2, those are double bunks.
2.
Yeah. Oh, you have to take 3 of them.
Jane, can we take funds out of the rainy day fund towards this?
I would think we could.
Don't forget about the biggest problem that we're, out of all of this, is we have to hire 10 people to staff this. We can't hire people to work in our jail now. So that's going to be an issue. At a cost of about, what, $500,000 a year?
Yeah. Or more.
Yeah.
That's we based that on $50,000 for benefits and salary per employee times 10, so. And the only reason we can get by with 10 is because, as we spoke previously on the control system with the jail and this facility will be able to be operated by one person at either end with a lockout. In case the jail gets overrun, we can lock that control room out and run it from this facility and vice versa. Without that capability, then it requires 15 people to run this facility. So you add another $250,000 to annual salaries just for to staff it. That's because of the way the shifts work and stuff on having somebody there 24/7. Because the person in the control room basically does not leave that room at the jail or there. Because that leaves you open to bad things, which I think's happened before.
Yes, it has.
And we kind of have the money, which we went through previously before we bid this, using the jail lit, which is going to require some discipline out of the councils for the next at least 6 years till they get in the habit of taking money out of the lit budget and getting it back into the general fund budget. But we can sustain, the way I originally planned it, you could sustain the funds to pay the 10 employees for 6 years using that fund, and then start a decrease of 1 employee per year going back into the, all this is going to have to come back into county general sooner or later in the next 22 years, because that lit fund will end in 20, well, I think it's probably down to 19 now, or, well, it's extended to 25, so we're probably at 22 years.
And then we'll lose the courthouse payment in 5 years.
Huh?
And we'll lose the courthouse payment in 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. Which is almost $500,000 a year. The courthouse will be paid off in 2027, so. And there may be some money currently in the lit, you know, as far as the $200,000 for the additional for the control thing, and the $50,000 for the asbestos, and did you come up with a figure on the phone?
Yeah, I got, with the base of $4,750,000, the alternate 3 of $63,000, the alternate 8 of $125,000, the alternate 9 at $179,000, the allowance of $40,000.
Might as well do 1, 2. Might as well throw in 1, 2.
Well, I didn't even include 1 yet, okay, but we can. But 5% of that is $257,850, plus you got your mold and asbestos for $50,000. The control panel's a must because we've got to get it down to 10 employees. That's $200,000. The air handler, $430,000. That puts us at $6,094,850. We've got ARPA funds. I tried to write it down quickly. $4,487,293.
4.48.
Yeah. Plus the community corrections of $500,000. That puts us at $4,987,293, and that gives us a deficit that we'd have to find of $1,107,557.
But we still have to do the air handlers.
No, I've got the air handler.
Well, what I was getting ready to say, the $200,000 for the control system, the $50,000 for the mold and asbestos, and the 5% was 257,000. Just by the time this project is going, I don't know what the balance is of the jail right now is. You know, Jane, I think their budget was close to $400,000 on the budget thing. I'm thinking like $600,000 in there.
What did you say, Scott, how much we had, the debt would be?
Balance of Gillette right now is $655,800.
Million?
Balance in the jail right now is $655,000. Realizing the budget that was put in by the sheriff's department was 400. I don't have my book here with me. It was 400. I don't remember what it was now. But anyway, which will be taken out next year, but that's replenishing itself every year. So I think some of that could be charged, could be paid for out of the lit without having to finance it. It costs the taxpayers that much more money. So it's not a big hump, but it's a lot of little stuff.
You gotta look at, I think, alternate number 2, Or alternate number 6 as well too. For $18,000.
The request out of jail lit this year was 544, but I was hoping we can knock out at least 40 of that was the gas that
Yeah.
was duplicated, so
It's
it's
about
about,
500,000.
yeah.
Scott, in those figures that you ran through, did you use the 4.75 as the base bid?
Yeah, I used the 475 plus the alternate 3, the alternate 8, and the alternate 9.
Okay. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is if you don't do alternate number 1, which is the complete roof removal,
Yeah.
you really ought to use the 4.79, which is the base bid with the $40,000 contingency allowance.
Well, I did throw that. I did the base bid plus the $40,000,
Okay,
and then that's what I took the 5% contingency off of.
great.
All right.
But still leaves us financing,
1.1.
yeah, 1.1 million roughly.
Well,
It's gonna be more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably be more.
folks, if the base bid had came in at anywhere near the 3.1 million that we expected from the beginning, we wouldn't have to be having this discussion this evening. But I hope that everyone's clear on the how and why, where we're at with this right now. I don't want to keep Scott and Eric here in town all evening with this. And realistically, I don't expect a decision out of this council on this tonight. But the bid we have is good for another 37 days. Now, the position that the commissioners are in, since we don't have funds appropriated to cover this amount, we can't go forward or backward with this until council makes a decision on whether or not you want to further fund this. So you've got time to think about this and discuss it. Luckily, you're right in the midst of budget hearings right now, so everybody's mind is working on numbers. We'll just have to throw a few more in to work on. But we realistically, don't forget, 37 days. And if we let this go past 37 days, I don't know what would be Thor's position if we go to day 38 without making a decision.
Well, I guarantee you, their sub prices will go up, and they'll want to exercise those rights.
Yeah, okay.
We agreed to meet next week, Thursday, for the budget at 6. Could anybody come in earlier, like say 4 o'clock, to sit down with the commissioners and talk numbers? And I think Michelle and Zach.
Okay, your next budget session is going to be the 18th, right?
Right, it's at 6 p.m. So what I'm asking is if we could come at 4 and meet with you, and Michelle and Zach, and just make sure that the alternates.
Advertised? Does this have to be advertised?
How many days is that?
Oh, 40 hours.
Yeah, fine.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're okay with that.
6 o'clock next Thursday?
No, he's saying 4. Are you saying
Well-
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock mine?
Yeah.
Just saying 4, because everybody's like Thursday.
4 o'clock Thursday? 4 o'clock Thursday.
Yeah. And we'll just go straight into the budget hearing.
Is there any questions from you, Dale, or Tracy on this? Michelle, do you have anything else? That? Anyone in the audience? Shirley?
If you could go back to the 3.1 number that I think we've all been living with for the last, 2 years? I mean, it wasn't 2 years ago that we got to that 3.1 number. But from the time in 2018, when Michelle came up with the initial deposit on this project, like 6 years ago. And the numbers that I had, we were looking at 2.3 to 3.1. And since we got to the point where we knew what we had to have or wanted to have, we've gone from, and that was a very narrow window, from 3.1 to 3 and a much smaller time. And these gentlemen are seeing it every day, and we're seeing it at the gas station and at the bank and at, the grocery store. Every day, every month, every 6 months that we delay, it's going to continue to go up. There's just, short of a major recession when everything's going to crash, which we all think is going to happen anyhow at some point in time, we need to plan on keeping that number from growing. And if we don't hit that 37 days, the number is going to grow again and again.
Shirley,
We saw it happen with the county highway garage. And a lot of these people up here in the council and yourself saw what happened then, because it took us 2 to 3 years to decide what to do. We've been blessed with the ARPA money. It's like money from heaven. Our government is not heaven, I'm sure. No one else goes in that. More like hell. But, everybody else got it, we got it, and I think this is one of the most beneficial ways that we can use it. Our community corrections program, again, I will go say again, I don't think there's anybody who can argue. One of the best programs in the state. And Michelle has done a great job. And when this new project, building, whatever, gets accomplished, it will be even better. And people will send her more money, more people, more money. And then like John said, you've looked at the extra people that you're going to have to hire, but you'll have a much more efficient air handling system. You'll have a more efficient security system. It's not just this one building. It's an overall improvement that is going to allow whatever our current council and future council to work on the new jail 10 or 15 years down the road. But it'll give us a way we can avoid, are you maybe not getting the letters anymore about suing the council or the commissioners for overcrowding in the jail? Is that not a problem anymore? It is still a problem, not to mention the things that are going on. So we're going to be able to upgrade things with this project. I'm pleading, imploring with the council to be creative and come up with a way. We're, 6 years from 5 years from paying off the courthouse. Tack on 1 year or whatever. Go borrow the money while it's still reasonable to borrow it. Go borrow the money and get the job done and move on. You've got a lot of important people in this room who are, coming to help implore to find a reason, a way, a method to get it done. It's time. It's past time.
Shirley, I had a sign once that I never forgot. When you're up to your rear end alligators, hard to remember the original objective was to drain the swamp. And the original objective was work release. But then we decided the best thing to do is also make it incarceration too. There's your extra cost being put in here, okay? A lot of it.
But, like I say, you make it more efficient. The jail then, it gives us more time.
I agree with you, but that was not the original idea.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
And that's something to remind everybody, about. So it's
just
not
make sure everybody understands
paying
that,
attention.
Shirley, the council didn't get it until this year to vote on it. So we can't vote on funds that we were never presented with. There was no plan presented for all those years. And that has to come from the commissioners. And when they presented it to us, we voted unanimously in favor, I believe it was unanimously,
Yeah, it was.
in favor of approving it. So the delay didn't start here.
Well,
And I'm not trying to point fingers. I mean, they were trying to, but there was, clear myself before I put my mouth with Dale. They were trying to come up with a plan, and the best plan, like Bob said, originally it was work release, then it was we do for overcrowding and stuff like this. So it wasn't just a cut and dry thing that, here's what we got to do. There was some thinking needed to be done at their end first, then you had a change in commissioners, and then some things moved along.
So now maybe we have the best of all worlds, and
Well,
it's just
and
gonna
I
cost
think-
another million plus.
And we're just talking about another week, just so we can kind of wrap our heads around this and talk and see where we get that money from. Do we borrow it? Do we have enough? Do we, you know, we,
I know you guys can
Are
be
there ways
creative.
to, you know, I mean, are there grants or DOD fund, not DOD, but Department of Corrections? I mean, be creative, look at, maybe it can be a bond issue, I don't know. I used to raise money, so I'm just saying, look at ways other than borrowing within the next 30 days.
Well, we all have a lot to think about on this. So Shirley, I appreciate your comments. You and I have worked on a lot of projects in years past. We've shared a lot of same interests and a lot of the same frustrations. So, and this is just another one to add to the list. Because when we began this, the goal was to get these projects done zero debt. Well, now we have a stumbling block to deal with, but we'll try to deal with that. Mr. Munson, did you change your mind about a question? Nothing else? Okay.
Dale,
Mike?
I've got one question. Have you asked the city if they would be willing to use any of their ARPA funds to help us?
Say that again? I'm not sure I heard you right.
Have you asked the city if they want to give any of their ARPA funds to help us?
I could assign you to go over there and ask that question.
It's not my job.
Same help us.
I don't
I
think.
mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
That's 9% of the peripherals come from the city. I mean, come
That's
on.
one suggestion, Kay. Yeah, I don't really think that will happen. Okay, John?
Yeah, for, to address Shirley and Linda, I'm being very cautious on the spending on this thing for a couple of reasons. It's one of those catch-22s, well, don't be in a hurry, and, well, let's go back. When I first came into office, we were just starting as a county to get out of being in the red.
We were in the process of recovery.
Yeah, we're in the process of recovery. It's really gone good the last 3.5 years to where we've got some surplus enough to be able to set up a rainy day fund. The lit has been a blessing, so to speak, on that recovery system. And you told me yourself, probably the first year I was in here, yep, we're making recovery, but we got to watch ourselves, or we're going to be back into where we were. And me as an outgoing councilman this year, I'm teetering on, well, okay, so we've got ARPA funds, but the ARPA says we only have to have a plan by December 31st of 2024. And all the monies have to be expended by December 31st of 2026. So I think we can come up with the money to go ahead and do this. But the budget hearings the other day with the Sheriff's Department really got me on the verge of what am I doing? We're building a work release building up there. It's going to be very nice inside, but we're not going to be able to put people in it because we can't get enough people to man it. And I don't want it to be a retention facility to nowhere. It look nice driving by it and stuff, so, but that's not going to be on my head. Maybe it's going to be on the next sheriff's head and stuff, but, I don't want to be remembered as, yeah, he's on that council that approved that empty or that vacant, non-used building sitting down there on Central. So for me to vote, we're going to have some good hard numbers on how much money we're using, and to the extent that we're not going to regret it 2 years from now.
Right. John, I don't think any of us want to be remembered by our biggest mistake.
Yeah. But
I
we
know I
are.
certainly don't. And we're making, I'm confident we're making every effort we can to not make a mistake. That's why I'm not making this decision on my own. We're making it together. So we can be wrong together or we can be right together. But we certainly are not trying to shade anyone on this. You know, we want not only everyone here, but we want the general public to know where this money is going and why, and truthfully, some of them are going to agree with us and some are not. But we definitely have some problems that need, some expensive problems that need to be solved. And we're working on it. We're just doing the best we can. So,
And hopefully we're going to come up with a way it's not going to affect the taxpayers.
absolutely. That was my goal from the beginning. I truly do believe in the purpose of the project. I'm absolutely sold on the purpose of the project. And I hate debt. I did not want to accumulate any debt. Now, things have changed a little bit. Could it get worse? Yes. Could it get better? Maybe. I don't know. So we've got a lot to talk about in the next few days, and so we'll crunch some numbers together during your budget hearing meetings and see what we can work out.
Dale, I got one more question for you. The opioid settlement money, the ones that are not designated for certain things, can't we use some of that money?
That's certainly something to consider. I didn't bring any of those numbers with me, so I can't quote any numbers on that. And the opioid settlement money, of course, Kay, is spread out over an 18-year period.
But the first year, and I'm looking at the spreadsheet right here.
And it's not nearly as much money as everyone was led to believe it was going to be.
It's spread out, and I'm looking at the undiscretionary section for our first year is $166,000.
Yeah.
And the Connersville has $255,000.
Well, there's another case of at least we're not having to pay them.
Okay, that 166 is our total. That's not the first year.
I thought that was the first year.
It's our total unrestricted share. The first year in 2022, we're going to get 27,000 and some odd dollars. In 2023, we'll get an unrestricted 300 and some dollars, and then it goes from there.
Well, I'd like to thank all of our invited guests here tonight. We appreciate
Vivian, did you
the
have a
time that
question?
all of you have taken out of your schedules to be here.
Vivian, did you have a question?
Well, I was just kind of, I had a conversation the other day with a gentleman who was telling me that Union County needs a jail, a new jail. They've got like, he said 3 prisoners or something ridiculously small. But it is possible they've got ARPA funds. Maybe they would like to be presented an opportunity to join us and use our Betty's facility. It's just throwing out an idea because I didn't realize they were being tasked with a new jail. So possibly we've got 2 small counties together. We could do a combined effort with Union County. That's just it's throwing out just a conversation I had with an individual the other day. So that's something to think about.
Mike, I'm ready to adjourn if everyone else is.
Okay. The motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Jim and Kay made the motion. Jim made the motion, Kay seconded it. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.